The whole compound went silent the moment Kemi fell to her knees. Only a second earlier, people had been shouting, laughing, and pushing one another to get a better view. Someone's phone was even up in the air, recording. But when Kemi bent low in front of the woman they had dragged into the center of the yard, the noise died like a radio someone had switched off. "Auntie Bose," Kemi said softly, her voice shaking, "please forgive them." The woman standing before her did not look rich. She wore a plain navy skirt and a cream blouse, the kind many older women wore to church meetings or parent gatherings. Her handbag was old but neat. Her face was calm, though her eyes carried pain. Behind Kemi, her neighbor stared in disbelief. Tolu, who had started the whole trouble, dropped her hand from her mouth. "Kemi, stand up," she whispered. "Why are you bowing to her like that?" But Kemi did not stand. She kept her head lowered, right there on the rough cement in the middle of Adibeo Close, a busy little street in Ibadan where everybody knew everybody's business before sunset. Children who had been playing football near the gate stopped kicking the ball. Women on plastic chairs near the kiosks leaned forward. Even old Baba Sonia, who usually slept through every afternoon drama, was now wide awake. Nobody understood why Kemi, the most educated young woman in the compound, the one who worked in a modern office and spoke English as if she swallowed books, would kneel before a woman many of them had spent the whole week insulting. And that was because none of them knew what Kemi knew. Not yet. 3 days earlier, everything had still looked normal. Kemi lived with her widowed mother and younger brother in flat 2 of a 2-story compound painted pale yellow, though dust and rain had worked hard to change its color. Their street was modern enough to have taxis, delivery bikes, and a mini supermarket at the corner, but old enough to keep the spirit of a close African neighborhood where greetings mattered, elders watched from balconies, and news traveled faster than light. Every morning, before leaving for work, Kemi greeted everybody. She greeted Mama Tope, who sold fried bean cakes by the gate. She greeted the security man at the pharmacy. She greeted children in school uniforms, women carrying market bags, and old men sitting under the almond tree arguing about politics and football. But Kemi did not just say hello. She bent slightly when she greeted older people. She used both hands when passing things to them. She called them "Mop" and "Sir" with a warmth that made some people smile and others laugh at her. Her friends belonged to the second group. Tolu, Bisola, and Faye had known Kemi since secondary school. They loved her, but they never understood her ways. One evening, as the 4 of them sat outside the compound charging their phones from a power bank because NEPA had disgraced them again, Tolu shook her head and said, "Kemi, one day your waist will break from all this bending." Bisola laughed. "It is true. You greet like you are campaigning for governor." Faye nearly spilled her drink. "Or like all these aunties are hiding dollars inside their handbags." Kemi smiled and kept peeling the orange in her hand. "Greeting people well does not cost anything." "It costs pride," Tolu said quickly. Kemi looked at her. "Then maybe pride is too expensive." That made the others laugh loudly. They always laughed when she spoke like that. Not because Kemi was foolish. Far from it. Kemi had graduated at the top of her class from the Polytechnic. She worked as an assistant to the operations manager at a growing logistics company in town. She knew how to use spreadsheets, speak in meetings, and send emails with words that sounded very important. Yet for all her modern life, she still held on to old values as if they were gold. Her late father had taught her that when you meet people, he used to say, do not only look at where they are standing today. Life moves. Respect can open a door before your hand even touches it. As a child, Kemi did not fully understand those words. As she grew older, she did. Still, her friends thought she was too serious. Then Auntie Bose entered the picture. She was new to the street. She had rented the small self-contained room near the end of the compound after the former tenants moved out. She was quiet, kept to herself, and dressed simply. Some people guessed she was a retired teacher. Others said she was probably one of those churchwomen who like to advise people too much. Nobody seemed interested in knowing her properly. Except Kemi. The first morning she saw the woman, Kemi greeted her warmly. "Good morning, Ma." Auntie Bose looked almost surprised. "Good morning, my daughter." The next day, Kemi helped her lift a heavy bag from a taxi. Another day, she greeted her again at the corner shop and waited for her to cross the road before moving on. Small things. Ordinary things. Things Kemi never announced. But her friends noticed. One Saturday afternoon, when the compound women were washing clothes and children were making enough noise for 2 neighborhoods, Tolu spotted Kemi carrying a bucket of water to Auntie Boza's room. That was all she needed. By evening, the gossip had started. She wants favor. She is pretending. She thinks the woman is rich. She is doing eye service. The story grew legs by the next morning. In places like Adibeo Close, a rumor never walked. It ran. At first, Kemi ignored it. She thought it would pass. It did not. By Monday, Tolu and the others had moved from mockery to a plan. It began as a joke beneath the almond tree. Then it became something else. "We should expose this her fake humility," Bisola said. "Yes," Tolu agreed, eyes bright with mischief. "Let us pull something small. Let us see whether she will still be bowing up and down after that." Faye laughed, but there was sharpness in it. "Tomorrow evening. When everybody is around." And the next evening, just as the compound filled with returning workers, cooking smells, ringing phones, and restless children, they made their move. They called Auntie Bose into the open yard. They called Kemi too. Then, in front of everyone, Tolu lifted a voice full of false sweetness and said, "Since Kemi loves bowing for this woman so much, today we want to know why." The crowd shifted closer. Kemi's heart began to pound. Auntie Bose stood still. Then Bisola held up something in her hand, smiled coldly, and said, "Before she explains, maybe we should first show everybody what we found in this woman's bag." And Kemi's face lost all color. Kemi took one step forward. "Bisola, don't open that bag," she said. But Bisola only smiled wider. She stood in the middle of the yard like someone enjoying a stage performance. Tolu folded her arms. Faye leaned against the wall, trying to look brave, though her eyes moved too quickly. Around them, the compound came alive with whispers. What did they find? Money. Maybe charms. Or secret papers. Auntie Bose did not fight for the bag. She only held the strap tighter for a second, then let it go. That calmness made Kemi even more afraid. Some people thought fear always came with shouting. They were wrong. Sometimes the scariest thing was silence. Bisola dipped her hand into the bag and pulled out a brown envelope. "There," she announced. Mama Tope stood up from her chair. "Open it, let us see." Kemi's chest tightened. "Please stop this. You have gone too far." Tolu clicked her tongue. "Why are you shaking? You are the one who has been bowing to her all over the place. We only want to know what is so special." "It is not your business," Kemi said, more firmly now. But the crowd had already chosen excitement over sense. Bisola opened the envelope. Inside were papers, neatly arranged. She pulled out the first one and frowned. "Oh." Tolu snatched it. "Let me see." The expression on her face changed. Not fully. Not yet. But the confidence slipped. "What is it?" someone asked. Tolu read the heading slowly, stumbling over the big words. "Deed of transfer." A murmur spread. Bisola took another paper and this time her mouth fell open. Faye rushed over and looked too. The three girls stood frozen, suddenly less sure of themselves. Kemi closed her eyes for 1 second. It was too late now. Auntie Bose finally spoke. You may continue, if you like. Since you have already opened what does not belong to you. Her voice was not loud. It did not need to be. Tolu swallowed. These papers, they are for land. Yes, Auntie Bose said. The yard was so quiet that the sound of a spoon falling from someone's hand at the back seemed loud as thunder. Land where? Baba Sonia asked. Auntie Bose turned to him. This compound. That single sentence broke the street into noise. What? This house? Or the flats? Impossible. Mama Tope nearly sat down too hard and missed her chair. Two boys at the gate looked at one another and started whispering with eyes wide like saucers. Tolu shook her head. No. That cannot be true. Auntie Bose looked at her for a long moment. It is true. The owner, my elder brother, passed away last year. The property matters were delayed in court. I came quietly to inspect things for myself. I wanted to understand how people here lived before making any decisions. Nobody spoke. Every insult they had thrown at her all week now seemed to return and stand beside them. Kemi stared at the ground. Not because she was ashamed of Auntie Bose, but because she knew what would come next. She had known since the first day she recognized the woman. That day, she had not told anyone. She had been leaving work when her manager called her back into his office. On his table had been a photo frame showing him at a funeral, standing beside an older woman in a cream blouse. Kemi had looked at the woman and gone still. It was the same woman she had greeted that morning at the compound gate. Her manager, Mr. Adigok, had followed her eyes. That is my aunt, Bose Adeyemi, he had said. A strong woman. She is handling some family property issues for us in Ibadan. Kemi had said nothing then. She had simply nodded. Later that evening, when she saw Auntie Bose again and greeted her, the woman had given her a long look. You know who I am, Auntie Bose had said quietly. Kemi had answered with honesty. Yes, Ma. But I would have greeted you the same way even if I did not know. For the first time, Auntie Bose had smiled fully. Now, standing in the yard, Kemi wished she had told her friends to stop before things got this far. But some lessons only enter when pride has already lit the fire. Faye was the first to speak. Her voice was smaller now. We were just joking. Auntie Bose looked at her. A joke is something all sides can laugh at. No one had an answer for that. Tolu tried next. We did not mean any harm. You dragged an older woman into the center of the compound, said Mama Tope suddenly, now no longer on their side. You opened her bag in public. What kind of children are you? The same crowd that had wanted drama now shifted its weight in discomfort. That was how crowds behaved. They were bold when blame floated in the air, but careful when it began to land. Bisola slowly pushed the papers back into the envelope. Her hands were no longer steady. We are sorry. But sorry, in that moment, sounded thin. Auntie Bose took the envelope from her and placed it back in the bag. Then she faced everyone. For 6 days, she said, I have listened. No one moved. I heard people say I was too quiet, too plain, too old-fashioned, too poor-looking to matter. I heard laughter when this girl greeted me with respect. I heard some of you call her foolish because she bent her body when speaking to elders. Her eyes moved across the compound, touching people one by one. And today, because you could not understand goodness, you chose to test it. Kemi felt tears stain her eyes. Auntie Bose continued, that is the sickness of many hearts now. People no longer trust kindness. They think every humble act must hide a plan. They cannot imagine respect being real. The words entered the yard like rain entering dry ground. At the balcony above, a woman quietly drew back her clothes from the line and went inside, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Baba Sonia cleared his throat. Madam, we have done wrong. Yes, she said. Then she turned to Kemi, and her expression softened. But not all of you. Kemi's lips trembled. She bent again, not out of fear, but feeling. I am sorry, Ma. I should have stopped them sooner. Auntie Bose gently touched her shoulder. You did not call them. You did not teach them insult. Stand up. Kemi stood, though her knees still felt weak. Tolu could no longer hold herself straight. Please, Ma. Do not punish the whole compound because of us. That sentence made several heads turn sharply toward her. So that was what she feared most. Not guilt. Consequence. Auntie Bose said nothing for a while. In the distance, the call to evening prayer floated over the roofs, mixing with the sound of generators starting up one after another. The sky had begun to dim. Lights from nearby shops touched the compound wall in faint yellow patches. At last she spoke. When I first came here, I was prepared to renovate this place. I had plans. New wiring. Better water. Fresh paint. Safer doors. I even considered reducing rent for families who were struggling. A soft gasp moved through the yard. But after what I have seen, she said, I am no longer sure what should be done. People began pleading at once. Madam, please. Forgive us. It was only those girls. We are not all like that. Auntie Bose lifted one hand, and silence returned. I will decide after I have thought carefully. Then she looked at Tolu, Bisola, and Faye. As for the three of you, tomorrow morning you will come to my room by 8. Not to beg. To listen. The girls nodded quickly, like children called into the principal's office. Auntie Bose then turned and walked away. No one tried to stop her. The yard remained still long after she disappeared into the corridor. That night, nobody on Adibeo Close slept easily. Some feared eviction. Some feared shame. Some feared that a single foolish evening had ruined blessings meant for everybody. But Kemi feared something else. She sat on the small bench outside her family's flat, staring into the darkness, while her mother slept inside and her younger brother breathed softly on the mat. In her hand was her phone. On the screen was a message she had received just minutes earlier from her manager. It read, Kemi, my aunt called me. She told me everything that happened. She also told me she has made a decision about you. We need to talk first thing tomorrow. Kemi read it again and again. And for the first time since the shouting began in the yard, her heart beat not with fear for the compound, but with fear for herself. Kemi hardly slept. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw the yard again. She saw Bisola opening the brown envelope. She saw the shock on everybody's face. She heard Auntie Bosa's convoice asking them to come and listen. Before the first rooster cried, Kemi was already awake. Her mother found her sitting on the edge of the bed, tying and untying her scarf. You are worrying too much, she said gently. Kemi looked up. What if she is angry with me too? Her mother sat beside her. A clean hand may still shake when others scatter dust. But it is still a clean hand. Kemi nodded, though her chest still felt tight. By 7:30, the whole compound was restless. Doors opened earlier than usual. People swept their front steps more carefully. Women who normally argued over water buckets spoke in hushed voices. Even the children seemed to understand that this was not a day for noise. At exactly 8, Tolu, Bisola, and Faye stood outside Auntie Bosa's room. For once, none of them looked bold. Tolu's usual sharp mouth was quiet. Bisola kept rubbing her fingers together. Faye stared at the floor like it had become the most interesting thing in the world. Kemi stood a few steps behind them, unsure whether to go closer or stay back. Then the door opened. Auntie Bose came out dressed simply in a light blue wrapper and blouse. Her face was composed, but there was something strong in it, like someone who had cried long ago and learned how to turn pain into wisdom. "Come in," she said. The girls entered. To Kemi's surprise, Auntie Bose looked at her too. "You as well." Inside, the room was neat and plain. There was a small table, 2 plastic chairs, a standing fan, and a framed photograph on the wall of an older man with kind eyes. Kemi guessed it was Auntie Bose's late brother. The girls sat on a mat after Auntie Bose refused to let them stand like prisoners. For a few moments, no one spoke. Then Auntie Bose said, "Do you know why I asked you to come?" Tolu answered first, her voice low. "To punish us." "No," Auntie Bose said. "If I wanted punishment, I would call the police for public theft and humiliation. I asked you here because what is wrong with you is deeper than one bad evening." The words landed heavily. Bisola swallowed hard. Auntie Bose folded her hands in her lap. "I was not always like this. Quiet. Careful. Slow to speak." The girls looked up. "When I was young, I was proud. Very proud. My father had money. People respected our family name. I thought greeting people first made you small. I thought kindness was for those who wanted favors. If an older woman called me, I would answer from where I stood. If a poor person spoke, I listened with half my ear." Kemi listened closely. "One day," Auntie Bose continued, "my father fell very sick while traveling. His driver got lost in a village far from home. They stopped near a roadside stall to ask for help. The woman selling roasted corn there recognized my father. Years earlier, he had helped her quietly when her husband died. He had paid her children's school fees without telling anyone. The room was silent except for the turning fan. That woman gathered people, found transport, and stayed with my father until help came. He survived because someone he had respected remembered him with gratitude. That day I learned what my father had tried to teach me all along. Human beings are not ladders to climb. They are lives to honor." Tolu's eyes filled with tears. Auntie Bose looked at each of them. "Yesterday, what pained me most was not that you insulted me. I have lived too long to break because of careless words. What pained me was seeing young women laugh at humility as if it were foolishness." Faye finally spoke, almost whispering. "We were jealous." The others turned toward her. She kept going, tears now slipping down her cheeks. "Kemi is always loved. Elders bless her. People trust her. Even at work, things seem to open for her. We laughed at her, but sometimes I think we wanted what she had." The truth sat in the room like a fifth person. Bisola began to cry too. "It is true. She never fights for attention, but people still respect her. We wanted to prove she was only pretending." Tolu covered her face. "And when we could not understand her, we chose to shame her." Kemi felt tears gather in her own eyes. Auntie Bose nodded slowly. "That is how many people destroy what they secretly admire." No one argued with that. After a while, Auntie Bose stood and walked to the small table. She picked up a folded sheet of paper. "I did make a decision last night," she said. The girl stiffened. She handed the paper to Kemi. Kemi opened it carefully and read. It was an appointment letter. Her eyes widened. Auntie Bose spoke before anyone could ask. "My brother's company is opening a new community outreach office here in Ibadan. We need someone honest, organized, and respectful to coordinate it. Your manager recommended you long before yesterday. What happened in the compound only confirmed his judgment." Kemi looked up in shock. "Me, Ma?" "Yes," Auntie Bose said. "You." Tolu let out a soft breath. Bisola wiped her face. Faye managed a weak smile through tears. But Auntie Bose was not done. She faced the 3 girls. "And as for you, I will not throw your families out. Blessings should not die because of foolishness. Relief rushed through them so quickly it was almost visible. However, she added, for 1 month, every Saturday morning, you will walk with Kemi at the outreach center once it opens. You will help register widows, sort school supplies for children, and serve food during the health program. You mocked humility. Now you will practice service. The girls nodded quickly. Yes, Ma. We will do it. We are sorry. Auntie Boza's voice softened. Do not just be sorry. Change. That morning changed Adebayo close in ways nobody expected. Word spread, of course. It always did. But this time the gossip carried shame first, then reflection. People began greeting one another more carefully. Children noticed the change. Elders noticed too. On the first Saturday of the outreach program, Tolu arrived before everyone else. Bisola came with notebooks for the children. Faye brought drinking water and helped arrange chairs. At first, they walked awkwardly, like people wearing clothes that did not fit. Then, little by little, something in them settled. Service was teaching them what mockery never could. As for Kemi, she stepped into her new role with quiet strength. She did not boast. She did not remind anyone that she had been right. She simply walked. Months later, the compound got its renovation after all. The broken pipes were fixed. The walls were repainted. Safer lights were installed by the gate. Rent stayed fair. Yet people would say the greatest change was not the paint or the water. It was the heart. And whenever newcomers asked why people on Adebayo Close greeted one another so warmly, Momo Tope would smile and say, because one day, we nearly lost a blessing by laughing at a girl who knew how to bow. Then she would point toward Kemi, who still bent slightly when greeting elders, still spoke gently, still carried herself with the same quiet dignity. Only now, nobody laughed. They understood.